Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 350. I was white here, and we play a King's Gambit. And my opponent once again plays the King's Gambit declined. I should mention, in addition to the accepted line and the declined line, there's also d5, the Falkbeer counter gambit, an interesting way for black to play. But the decline line is a perfectly respectable way to play. And now I've learned that knight f3 is important here. One game, I didn't upload this one, but one game I just took. And queen to h4 check is pretty devastating. This is a very handy thing to know. Well, first of all, if you move the king, then queen e4 is checkmate. So the bishop is cutting off the escape of the king. There's no way out, no piece to block it. So the only move here is g3, and this is a handy tactic to learn. The queen takes here with check, and this tactic, and picks up the rook in the corner. This tactic shows up a lot in these games where you've moved your f-pawn. So something to always be alert for. So knight f3 is the move here. And d6, my opponent played. That's the main move. And now, in the first game that I uploaded, I tried to move d3 here. And d3 is, it's not a horrible move, but black can keep the advantage just by developing normally. He doesn't have to take. My opponent helped me out by taking, which makes my job easier. I take back with the bishop, and I get an open line and a free developing move for the bishop. So that's not the best. So c3, and I decided, I'll try the c3 line here. And my opponent played bishop g4, which turns out to be an excellent response, because the move I played, d4, is not quite correct. I mean, I thought c3 is building up to d4, but this move, bishop to g4, is acting against the idea. So rather than taking right away, he could grab the bishop, but it's okay. He can take first. Let's go ahead and show this. And then he can take here. And what am I supposed to do? If I take with the queen, he just gets the pawn. So, oops, I lost that. Knight f3 and c3, bishop g4 and d4. Yeah, so, or he could have played bishop takes f3 immediately, but takes, and then bishop takes f3 here is a good move. So if I take with the queen, I just lose his pawn, so I should take here with the g-pawn. And queen h4 check is now possible again because the knight is gone, and my pawns are messed up, and black's pieces are very active. So this just isn't a good line. And let's see, he could have played bishop takes f3 even earlier before taking the pawn. So fortunately for me, well, let's back up. What should I play instead of d4? Looks like I can play f takes e5 here. The engine likes this at first, but actually if you let it think for a while longer, the evaluation starts to drop. Yeah, there it goes. And bishop to c4 looks like a move here, just developing. And at some point I still need to get on this move d4 to block this this bishop's diagonal so I can castle. So just developing the bishop to c4 doesn't seem to help that. I could also play a quiet move like d3, shoring up the center, and but that doesn't really solve too many of my problems. I'll still have this issue with how to castle and how to develop. So anyway, playing actively with f takes e5 or bishop to c4. The engine is suggesting bishop b5 check here. Are ways to play, but the immediate d4 is a mistake. Okay, so now I've learned a little bit more about this opening. He took, I took back, and then he went bishop b4 check, and now we're out of the opening book. But this lets me off the hook. He could have done much more damage by taking the knight. Okay, so I develop my knight, and he goes knight f6, queen d3. Looks like queen a4 check is an interesting try here. Queen a4 check is a fork of the king and the bishop, and it's always something you should keep an eye out on when you have these open lines for the queen and that open line towards the king. He can defend the bishop, which a lot of times this is sufficient, but in this particular case I have the move d5 and I can attack his pinned knight. So it looks like queen e7, queen e7, queen e7. Oh, counterattacking in the center is his best line. But I pick up a piece and he gets some pawns, it looks like. Good for white. So I missed that idea. I just played queen d3. I was more concerned about holding on to these pawns in the center, which are important. That pawn was under attack. But the aggressive queen a4 check would have been a better move. Okay, knight b d7. We developed normally for a few moves. And e5 was a good idea there. I prepare it a little bit and then play e5 now. So this is opening up another line and also making his chasing his knight away from a good square. So he played bishop takes, cancel that. He played bishop takes c3, he got rid of this knight, that's right. I took back, and then he went knight d5. And right here I have a good move. It's funny, I thought of this move later when it wasn't so good. Knight g5 is a good move right here because it's a double attack. Knight g5 threatens queen takes h7, and it also threatens bishop takes bishop. The bishop is unprotected there. So if I played knight g5, his best try is to go ahead and take the bishop, but then I get my queen in here with check, king f8, rook e1 hitting the bishop. You know, I haven't gotten my material back, but his king is getting chased around. Let's see, how does this work out? Knight 7 to f6. Okay, so he's giving material back that way. Is his bishop trapped? If he just, say, retreats his bishop here, what do I do? Queen h8 check, king e7, and queen takes g7. Yeah, so you keep munching pawns over here, and you've got a big threat on f7 now. Rook f8, and knight e4. Okay, repositioning the knight and maybe threatening something along this diagonal, perhaps. Maybe queen here. Okay, so anyway, you get a nice attack for the piece. So knight g5 would have been good there. Rook b1 I played, just going after a weak pawn over here. He plays b6. I go c4, kicking his knight. That was what I was building up to. I was building up to this c4 against the knight. That's one of the reasons why I didn't think of knight g5 was I already had this fixed idea of chasing this knight away, and I was following that plan. But of course, as I've said before, it helps to keep an open mind. You have your ideas, but there's also the position on the board. You should inspect it now and then to see if there's other things there you're missing. Okay, this knight dropped back to e7. And now, at this point, I was starting to think about this knight g5 idea, but it doesn't work because of bishop to f4. The knight supports the bishop. Bishop to f4 defends against the mate threat and hits the queen. So I play knight h4, trying to maneuver my pieces around. He should probably just trade off my bishop. He goes knight to c6. And, oh yeah, he just left his bishop hanging. So I'm pretty much winning from this point on. So at this point, let's back up. Right here, just to show what best play might be, I still have some slight edge because of my advanced space here. He should take my bishop. I guess he didn't have any good retreat squares. I take back. And then he can play c5 and try and undermine my center. And that's the way black should play this position. And slight edge for white, but the game would go on. So knight c6, he just abandoned his, his bishop here. Didn't realize it was under attack, I guess. So after this exchange, I should be winning pretty easily, but you know, it's an open position. Things can still get complicated. Let's see. I played bishop takes d7 here instead of just taking back with the pawn. Looks like that's still okay. Queen d7. At some point, he seems to get back into the game a little bit. Then I grab the pawn here. Queen takes d4 with check would be a way of trading off material, but it would leave me a piece up, and so he doesn't really want to do that. So he tries knight takes e5, an interesting tactic using the pin on the queen. And I just move my queen out of the way. I want to hold on to these pawns. This c pawn is under attack as well as the d-pawn. So this looks like it was a good response. He goes knight g4 now, trying to get some activity over here. And I play bishop b2, setting up some counter threats along this diagonal. So far so good. Queen d6, threatening queen takes here, checkmate. But I have knight f3, also g3, looks like would defend. Now knight e3 hitting my rook. And I played d5 here. Okay, it's still not awful. I've threatened to mate. He's got to respond to that. He goes queen g6. And now knight h4. Oh, it turns out that's an okay move too. Knight h4 attacks the queen, defends this pawn here. I was in a little bit of trouble because now there's multiple threats, right? He's got the knight attacking my rook, and he's got the queen threatening checkmate. So I have to deal with both of them. But knight h4 hits the queen, and so he has to move it, so he doesn't have time to take my rook. And it also defends against the mate. So he plays queen g4, keeping up the mate threat. And now I play g3. And I realized later I could have played this move rook f4. It's the second choice here. Yeah, it's an interesting tactic. So I just thought I would put it on the board. Too bad I didn't think of it during the game. But the point is, I have a mate threat. So he actually can't even take the rook. So I'm placing this rook on a square where it's not even protected, but he can't afford to take it. So that chases his queen away. Queen drops back to g5. And then rook to e1. Yeah, he wasn't even threatening to take my knight. So now I'm chasing his knight away, and this is looking pretty good for white. I'm still a piece up, and everything is holding together. He can't take my knight or my rook because of the mate threat. Interesting. Well, he needs to play f6, and then I'll respond with g3, defending everything. Okay, cute tactics there. So I didn't spot that until too late, and in fact I played the move g3, which was completely unnecessary. I could have just played rook f2 if I just wanted to defend. And he still can't take the knight, so I'm not losing that piece. So that would have been a fine move as well, simply defending and leaving the knight there because he's not really threatening to take it. Okay, enough on that. So g3, and now he grabs the rook, and so he's gotten back into the game. I still have a 1-point advantage here because I have 2 pieces for the rook, and I have active pieces. So I'm still probably winning, but I made my life a lot harder there. Okay, so he develops with rook e5. Oh, right here, he gives the game away. So rook e5 just puts the rook where it's hanging. He needs to do something about the mate threat, so a move like f6 would be a good way for the game to continue. And now my knight probably needs to be repositioned. I was thinking knight f5, so that I would have maybe ideas of sacrificing on g7 and grabbing here. And rook e2. Counterattacking. Yeah, look at that. And now I have to find knight d4 to defend everything. Rook e4 and c5. And it looks like I can play this position with a slight edge. But yeah, so black had some chances, but he instead of playing f6, he played rook e5, just leaving it where I could take it. So not much going on in the rest of the game. He tried for a few more moves, but he's just down a couple of pieces at this point. And after a few moves, he resigned. Yeah, this move, knight h6, I was trying to decide what's the best way to proceed here. It looks like knight h6 or knight e7 are killer moves. So yeah, my idea was knight h6. Let's see what happens after knight h6. Yeah, there's going to be a mate in 6. He tries c5. I take it. He tries f5. And I play rook takes. He can't, his queen can't move because of the threats here. Okay, but queen takes rook and knight takes. And yep, too devastating. So let's back up. In this position after bishop d4, queen there, he played the queen to f8, and as I was thinking about what my next move was, he resigned here. So interesting game, I thought. Some cute tactics there. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.